Hello friends, welcome again, and today we will discuss about the terms of payment, which is a very important topic if you are dealing in import-export business. And terms of payment play a very important role in export business, and it's important not only for clinching an order from a customer. In fact, it helps you in clinching an order from a customer even if your products are not very competitive in terms of price and quality. But it also helps you in securing your payment from the importer who are sitting in some other corner of the world. Before going ahead, I'm just giving you a scenario. Let's assume that you are an exporter and you got a very lucrative order, a very fantastic order from a company in Australia or New Zealand, and for that matter any other part of the world. This company located in some other corner of the world is not known to you, right? But the offer is so attractive, it's so lucrative. The price offered could be 3 or 4 times or even 5 times of what you can expect in domestic market. This could be a trap, and you might feel tempted to accept the offer and ignore the terms of payment. And once all the transactions are over, once everything is done, you ship the products, every transaction is done, and now when you ask for the payment, it might come as a surprise for you that the party, the importer who got the goods from you, might refuse to make the payment, or even you might not be able to trace the party's location or trace the party's existence. So when you are discussing about the terms of payment, it takes care of all these things. So it helps you in securing your payment from someone who is not known to you, because there is a kind of guarantee. I don't say it's a foolproof guarantee or it's a foolproof mechanism to secure a payment, but yes, it mitigates the risk to a greater extent. And generally there are four different types of methods. There are four different methods of receiving payment, or there are four different types of terms of payment. But before that, let me give you a very brief introduction of terms of payment. It plays a very vital role in export business, and there are some factors which affect the terms of payment, like exchange control regulations, trade practices, financial position of buyers, plus bargaining strength of the trading partners. In country, in our country like India, there is a rule that the full export value of the goods must be realized within 6 months from the date of shipment. And two countries have been exempted from this regulation, that is Bhutan and Nepal. And in case there is any deviation, suppose you might not be able to realize the payment within 6 months from the date of shipment, then this kind of deviation requires prior approval from RBI, that is Reserve Bank of India. Okay. So now coming to different modes of, or different methods of payment. There are four different methods of payment. One is advance payment, then we have documentary credit, then third one is open account with provisions for periodic settlement, and fourth one is the shipment on consignment basis. As I told you, these payment terms are determined by a number of factors. Let me repeat. There it could be dependent on the trade practices, the exchange control regulations, the financial position of buyers, and most importantly, the bargaining capacity of the trade partners. So let's discuss about this advance payment. In advance payment, there is almost no risk for the exporters, and that way I can say that this is the safest and ideal method, of course, from the exporter side, because in this kind of payment, the payment is received, or in this kind of terms of payment rather, the payment is received at the time of the acceptance of the order or before the shipment is made. But it's very difficult to grab this kind of offer, as the buyer will not favor this kind of payment terms unless he or she is an overseas affiliate of the exporter, or there is a real urgent requirement of the goods, or the exporter has a monopoly on the product. If at all advance payment is the agreed payment of terms between the exporter and the importer, suppose a firm in India, can receive the payment by a draft which is payable at a bank in India, or the exporter may arrange the payment through his bank for a bank in India. Whatever the method of payment could be, whether the draft or mail or telegraphic transfer, it will be in the currency specified in the contract of sale. I'm sorry, so far I could not upload my video on the contract of sale, but it will be available very soon. We will discuss about contract of sale very soon. I need some time to prepare something for that. But coming back to the advance payment, this advance payment saves the seller from the risk of credit or transfer risk. Exchange risk might exist. Exchange risk exists in the sense, like if you are an exporter and you have quoted in a foreign currency, so this exchange risk might exist from the date of contract until the payment is received, in case there is some fluctuation in the exchange rate, right? So I have just mentioned these points on this slide. You can always refer to it. Okay, as I told you, this is the cheapest method, and there is no need for prior post shipment finance of any kind. Okay, and it's free from any kind of credit or transfer risk. As I told you, exchange risk might exist. Now coming to the documentary credit. Okay, so let's have a look at the documentary credit. If an exporter is unable to get an order with advance payment, which we saw is the safest method for him, the next best option is the documentary credit. In this method, the importer arranges a letter from their bank in the host country, that is in the country of importer, and this letter is arranged by their bank to the exporter, giving an assurance of payment, or there will be an undertaking that the payment will be made soon after shipment. So this is a kind of safety or guarantee for the exporter. But how will the importer ensure that the exporter complies with the agreed terms and conditions of sales contract? If I am an exporter, okay, for me it's safe to have a documentary credit, but just imagine from the point of view of importer, they also need some kind of security, they also need some kind of guarantee that the exporter will comply to the product specification or the quality specification, or it could be anything. There could be several terms and conditions, and for importer also it's important to ensure that the exporter comply to all the terms and conditions agreed in the contract of sale, right? So for this reason, the letter from the bank stipulates submission of certain documents. If you notice, in this method, credit is given to the exporter on the basis of documents, and that's the reason this method is referred to as a system of payments through documentary credits. And if you look at the definition I have mentioned over here, this definition was given by Uniform Customs and Practice, UCP. So as per UCP, the documentary credit has been defined as any arrangement whereby a bank, acting at the request and in accordance with the instructions of a customer is the importer, undertakes to make payment to or to the order of a third party, that is the exporter, against stipulated documents and compliance with stipulated terms and conditions. So if you look carefully at this definition, you can make it very clear that the payment to the exporter is guaranteed. At the same time, the terms and conditions mentioned in the documents, it could be quality specification, it could be timing of shipment, it could be packaging specification. So these terms and conditions are also protected, are also taken care of in favor of the importer. Okay. So yes, it reconciles the conflicting interest of buyer and seller, because interest of both buyers and seller are protected. Okay. And next, there are different forms of documentary credit. One is, we call it as DAP, that is documents against payment, and the second one is the documents against acceptance. Okay, and this documentary credit, this payment term, is becoming very popular as it gives comfort both to the exporter as well as to the importer. The bank gives an undertaking to the importer that he will make payment to the exporter only if he has ensured compliance with stipulated terms and conditions. At the same time, he also gives an undertaking to the exporter that payment will be made as soon as the documents which give all kind of evidence that compliance with stipulated terms and conditions are made, and if these documents are submitted, the bank will make payment to the exporter. Okay, so now let's have a look at this DAP, that is document against payment. Okay, so this DAP is a widely used and very common method for receiving payment in respect of exports. And in documents against payment, that is normally we will call it as DAP. So in DAP, the exporter is ready to ship the goods before the payment is made, but he doesn't transfer the ownership of goods to the buyer, or doesn't allow the buyer to take possession of them before the buyer has paid. Right? So how this system of DAP works? Here the exporter draws a bill of exchange on the buyer. Okay, and this bill is payable at site. The exporter then hands over the bill to his banks along with some other documents, and the documents are also meant to transfer the title of goods to the importer. Okay, these documents are basically commercial invoices, then packing list, then marine insurance policy will be there, or some other certificates will be there, and a full set of documents is handed over to the bank. Okay, or I can say these documents are surrendered to the importer only upon payment of the bill. Okay, it also includes BL, or could be AWB, that is airway bill, or combined transport document. Fine. So these bills are presented to the buyer for payment through a branch or a correspondent in the buyer's country. Okay, the amount is realized and remitted back to the exporter's bank or his account. It looks to be a very risk-free way of doing export business, but let's see if there are any risks still involved in DAP. So as I told you, these documents are surrendered to the importer, and then bills are presented to the buyer for payment. Okay, and the amount is realized and remitted back to the exporter's bank for his account. Now coming to as we discussed, let's have a look at the risk in DAP. So in case of goods sold on DAP basis, the exporter retains control of goods till payment is received, but still there is a risk. If the bill is not paid on presentation and the goods are lying in the foreign port, what about the custom duties? What about the warehouse and insurance charges and other incidental expenses? Yes, these charges keep accumulating. Also, it may be impossible to find another buyer in case at the 11th hour, at the time of making payment, the buyer might refuse for XYZ any other reason, right? So in that situation, it becomes very difficult for an exporter to find an alternate buyer, and it's also very difficult to reship the goods. And apart from this, there is an exchange risk, there is a transfer risk, and in case where the bills are in foreign currencies, as we discussed, exchange risk exists from the time of sales contract until the bill is realized. If the exporter's bank purchases such bill and the bill is not paid by drawee, exporter's account will be debited with the amount of the bill and the related charges. Okay. Coming to the transfer risk, there could be some delay in remittances from the buyer because of shortage of foreign exchange in his country. But this kind of risk can be mitigated or can be minimized by taking recourse to an export credit insurance policy. Some other time we will discuss about this export credit insurance policy, which is a very good facility to the exporter. Okay, so we will discuss about it sometime later. Now coming to the second method of documentary credit, that is documents against acceptance. In this method, the exporter draws a usance or time bill. Usance is nothing but you purchase, you get some time, you buy some time to make the payment. So the exporter draws a usance or time bill in the name of importer. Okay. If you look at the dictionary definition of usance, you will find it as the time allowed for the payment of foreign bills of exchange according to law or commercial practice. Okay, so the exporter forwards the bill along with the export documents to the bank for delivery to importer against acceptance of the bill. Let me repeat, the exporter forwards the bill, okay, along with the export documents. There are some other export documents as we discussed in a DAP method. Okay, so these all documents will remain the same even in documents against acceptance. So these documents plus the bill are forwarded to the bank for delivery to importer against acceptance of the bill. In this type of transaction, that is documents against acceptance, the exporter is willing not only to ship the goods before the payment is made, but is also ready to wait even after the buyer has taken delivery of goods. So the exporter draws a bill and insists upon its acceptance before the documents are handed over to the importer. Okay. So here if you look at this box, insist upon its acceptance before the documents are handed over to the importer. Okay. What does it mean? Accepting the bill means writing the word accepted, ACCEPTED. So it has to be mentioned very clearly, accepted, and then they have to put their signature. So importer has to put the signature, and it implies that the importer has unconditionally undertaken or accepted to pay on the due date mentioned in the bill. On the due date, the bill is presented for payment and the amount is remitted to the exporter. And these bills have a usance period. The standard usance period is 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, or even 180 days. So we call it as 30 days DAP, right? 60 days DAP. If you look at the risk associated, just have a look at it. Ship the goods before the payment is made. Okay, so as we discussed, even before the payment is made, we can ship the goods, and if I am the exporter, I can wait even after the goods are handed over to the importer. But again, there are some risks associated with this type of transaction. Okay, first there is a credit risk, because there is a usance period, there is a time period. The importer may refuse to pay on the due date, and such failure or their unwillingness to pay on the due date may force the exporter to take recourse to legal action. and that of course is not a desirable thing to do in the business. Another risk is the transfer risk. Imagine there is a shortage of foreign exchange in the country of importer. This type of situation may be very risky for the exporter. However, this kind of risk can be minimized or can be mitigated by taking recourse to an export credit insurance policy. Okay. And another risk is exchange risk. Again, exchange risk exists when the bills are drawn in foreign currencies, and it exists from the time contract is concluded till the bill is paid. Fine. Now coming to the next method, that is open account with provisions for periodic settlement. So this method is generally used when there is intercompany relationship between seller and the buyer, or if the exporter and overseas buyers have a very reliable, long and very favorable dealings together. Also, there should not be any exchange restrictions that might complicate settlement. Sales on open account are settled through periodic remittances to the exporters. Okay, so periodic remittances are made to exporter. If you look carefully, you will find that such cases are just like financing carried by the exporter. If I am an exporter and if I am financially capable, or if there is a credit worthiness to carry the inventory abroad out of my own resources, so I'll go for this kind of terms of payment. And this kind of transaction requires a special permission of the RBI in India. If you are an exporter in India, so you need to have a special permission of Reserve Bank of India, and normally it is available only to foreign companies operating in India. So if there is a company basically from USA, basically from some other country, Australia, New Zealand, or from some other countries, and if they are operating in India, they can go for this kind of terms of payment with prior approval from RBI. Okay. So the next one, and in fact the last one, is the shipment on consignment basis. So shipment on consignment basis means that the goods are sent to the importer on the understanding that the importer means the importer will sell the goods and remit the sale proceeds. Okay. And here in importer, in most of the cases, is either the exporter's own agent or certain marketing agencies who undertake to sell the goods on commission basis. Imagine that I am an exporter and I sell product X in bulk to an importer in Russia. My good friend in Russia will sell the products, and after the sales are over, they will make the payment to my account. Okay. Here one important thing to notice is that under the exchange control regulations in India, Indian exporters are required to declare the minimum selling price of each consignment. In case the goods cannot be sold at the price declared at the time of shipment, and if there is any reduction in price, which is permitted, but it is permitted only by RBI. So if you have declared some price earlier, and now if you are not able to sell your products at the same price, and owing to certain marketing conditions, marketing situations, now you are forced to, or you are compelled to reduce the price of your product. You can always do it, but you need to have prior permission from RBI. So basically in this discussion, we covered the 4 different types of terms of payment. Okay. We discussed about the advance payment, we discussed about the documentary credit, and we discussed about the shipment on consignment basis, and before that open account with provisions for periodic settlement. Okay. In my next video, that is the second part of this discussion, which is in fact I will say this session is not concluded here. You will have a second part of this discussion, and that is very very important for all of you, because in that discussion you will find a very detailed and very elaborative discussion on a letter of credit. Okay, and you will also find very good discussion on different parties who are involved in documentary credits, what is the actual practical mechanism of documentary credit, how it works practically, how it flows, how the information flows, how the documents flow from one party to another, who are all the parties involved, which all banks are involved in executing this kind of documentary credits. Okay, what details are needed in LC, and most importantly, what are different kinds of LC, because there are so many kinds of letter of credit. People generally get confused, and if you don't have proper knowledge of different kinds of LC, I can say it's not a good thing, and it's very important to have a detailed knowledge of different kinds of LC. So we will also discuss about the different documents required in LC and very important guidelines for the exporters. Okay, so thanks a lot. Keep watching my videos, and we'll see you soon. Till then, goodbye. You can communicate to me if you have any question, if you have any suggestion, or if you have any feedback. You can write a mail directly to me. My email ID is mentioned over here. It's kumarwinsag@gmail.com, or you can send your feedback to my YouTube channel. So thank you, thanks a lot, keep watching, and we will see you soon. Bye bye.